Hey guys, it's Antiquated Ideas. Today, you may be watching this from a new platform. I've decided to go ahead and put some action behind my words, and I decided to launch a BitChute channel. So, as you guys know, I was talking about in my most recent video, talking about supporting alternative technology, supporting Parler, actually, in particular, because they are the latest target of the big social media corporations going after someone after they, removed the fucking president of the United States. But, yeah, so BitChute's been around for a while. BitChute is obviously it's like a less restrictive version of YouTube. Yeah, there are some. There's a lot more extremists, but granted, you're going to get that anywhere. I mean, whether they're saying it or not, I guess, in my opinion, the whole appeal of free speech is that, if somebody is an extremist or if they're an idiot or if they're whatever they are, then they can say it. So, I'd rather hear them say it and know, hey, I don't want to associate with that guy, rather than have everyone be censored to the point where you don't know who anyone is. And I really find that disappointing, actually. And anyway, if you're looking for me anywhere, like if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to the podcast, what do you know? It's the same name. It's Antiquated Ideas. So, I mean, just like anything, just like always, and it always will be. I really have no plans to change the name. So, look it up on Parler. That is Parler, or BitChute, which is BitChute. That's BitChute. And you can find me there. I mean, I really encourage you guys to go ahead and get off. I mean, keep your accounts, whatever. It doesn't matter. They're free. I mean, there's no point in just absolutely outright deleting them, except for maybe Instagram, because they're monitoring you, they're monitoring your usage, and they're probably stealing things off of your phone or computer. So do keep that one in mind. But for the most part, just, it doesn't matter. Just sign up for a new thing. Now, I know you guys, maybe you're a little bit worried, but don't worry, because I am going to be keeping my YouTube. I'm keeping the podcast up, however you watch that. And I am going to be keeping my blog. I know you guys, I know, well, first of all, not many people check it anyway, but that's probably my own fault because I don't write much on the blog. And that's really just due to me not having the time or memory to keep up on everything. I don't really like making the same point like 6 times. So if I write something on the blog, typically it's going to be different than something that I would do on YouTube, the podcast, or now on BitChute. Although, so you guys know, when I go ahead and make a video, well, technically I'm making a podcast. And when I go ahead and make the podcast, I just upload it to YouTube because I know some people prefer to watch it on YouTube rather than listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever the fuck the other ones are. I don't know. If you are looking to do a podcast, which, by the way, if you write a lot, I mean, if you're looking for some way to get things out there, I do highly suggest using this. I use Anchor, and I believe they're partnered with Spotify, but you upload your recordings, or you can record on Anchor, and it will automatically distribute everything for you. And I think that's really great. I've got to hand it to them. Again, I'm not sponsored. If I am ever sponsored, you'll know, because I'm saying that this is a sponsor, and I might do some advertisements in the future. I make absolutely no money off of this. I do have some things set up, but anyway, I digress. Let's actually get to the point now after 5 minutes of me fucking rambling on. So, like I said, in the past video, I talked about alternative technology, how I think people should support alternative technology, and in particular, Parler. which actually, by the way, before I do get into things, you guys should know by now, but I really do appreciate it when you guys message me. Feel free to give me any ideas for videos that you have. I know a couple of you had messaged me on Instagram and given me ideas. I wish that I wrote them down before Instagram banned me again. So I am going to be taking, I guess, a hiatus from Instagram. I don't know. Leave a comment on my blog. Leave a comment on one of my videos. My email is also antiquatedideas at gmail.com. Yeah, that's the one. So I guess you can shoot me an email if you want, but that's just my business email. So that's all fine and dandy. It's really inspiring to hear from you guys, and it's really motivating to hear from you. Plus, you guys really do give me some interesting topics to talk about. But anyway, let's get back into it. So, alternative technology. That's why I'm getting on BitChute. I know that BitChute kind of has a reputation from time to time for housing white supremacists and extremists and Nazis and all that other bullshit. But the way that I think about it is this, right? The appeal to freedom of speech is not necessarily that people can say whatever they want and get away with it. It's that people can say whatever they want and you discern for yourself whether you agree with it or not, right? So if somebody's posting something online and they're talking about, I don't know, joining the Islamic State or something, well, I would rather that them say that, or I would rather that they say that, and I see it or I hear it, because then I can decide for myself, hey, I don't agree with that, and I can choose to not associate with them. Whereas what's happening now is the major technology, like the big five technology corporations, what they do is they censor people out the ass to the point where basically if you're not a Democrat or a communist, they're going to censor you in some fashion or another. But I really dislike that, because if everyone is censored, you never know what somebody is or what they think, which to me leads to further problems in action, because somebody like that, they might end up becoming a literal terrorist and bombing something or killing people. Whereas if somebody's allowed to speak their mind, number one, you might be able to help them before that happens. Number two, just not to associate with them. And I should say that doesn't just go for extremists. I mean, that can go for somebody you disagree with. That can go for people who are angry all the time. I mean, that can apply to idiots too. If somebody's fucking stupid and you don't want to deal with it, then there you go. I mean, you notice, like, hey, they're saying something stupid. I don't want to deal with that person. So that's why I really, really think that we should end up going to these websites that are supporting free speech versus continually feeding. I mean, I see some of you guys, like on Instagram, have like 15 or 16 versions of the same account because they've just been deleted over and over and over again. And yeah, some of that's you, some of that's posting things that I don't know, like some of the stupid ass accounts that post gore. Number one, why are you posting gore? Number two, don't get upset if they ban you for posting gore. But really, you are just feeding this system. Whereas we could be better expending our energy on something that's actually beneficial to us and our community and the people who are willing to uphold our community. So that's why I'm pretty adamant about that, and why I have been taking the time and really thinking this over and saying, well, do I or do any of us really have the right to complain about the way that media companies are treating us when we're continuing to use their system? We're playing by their rules. I don't think that we really do have the right to complain in that case because, all things considered, we are still adhering to their platform. And so I actually decided to go ahead and just Google it to show you, how easy this is, right? I Googled alternative social media, and the first thing that it popped up were what are the best alternatives to Facebook, right? Whether you're young or old, I don't see why you're not looking these things up because, in my opinion, I'm thinking about transferring my things over to one of these. The number one that popped up just on this first list is Diaspora. And it says here that one of the main features that Diaspora prides itself on is decentralization, where it says, to quote, user data isn't collected and stored centrally by the provider. Instead, the infrastructure is distributed by users themselves, with data carried by these so-called pods. End quote. But that's pretty appealing. It says Diaspora is based on 3 key philosophies, and this is from them, by the way. This is from Diaspora. You can just look up. I'm pretty sure it's just fucking diaspora.com, but it says the 3 philosophies that they're based on is decentralization, freedom, and privacy. What more could you want? This website that I'm looking at gives you advantages and disadvantages. Really, it says the disadvantages are that it requires prior programming knowledge. So maybe this one isn't the one for you, and that there are also relatively few users. But I suspect, things like this, they'll start to make themselves more functional to the average person. Even the next one on here, it's called ELLO, ELLO. It says that they're avoiding personalized ads, so there's no reselling or forwarding of user data for advertising, and they say that likely isn't to change, and also that users are not obligated to use their real names. So there you go. That's, I've just listed 2 of them. I'm sure that there are hundreds more out there. So really all you have to do is do your research, and if you find one that you like, share it with people. Get these popular, because it's time that we stop giving our money to corporations that really want to be in place of the government. And I guess this is the part of the video where maybe I lose some people, or maybe some people get more interested. And that is, it's kind of a conspiracy, but it's really not if you look at it. And that's this corporatist rule over America. Like I said before, I thought it was absolutely ludicrous, outrageous, and asinine of these companies to ban Trump from. Well, let's see. Let's just Google right now. What was Trump banned from? Right. So let's see. Let's just find a list right here, because I know he was banned. Okay, so he was banned from Twitter, which is a big one. Obviously, that's the one that he was using a lot. He was banned from Facebook and Instagram. So basically anything that Facebook owns, he was banned for, which is banned from. He was banned from YouTube. He was banned from Snapchat, obviously, Reddit, Twitch. I don't know why the fuck he was banned from Twitch. He was banned from even more things like that. He was banned from PayPal. He was banned from Shopify. Okay. Let alone the need, or the perceived need, to ban one single person from this many things. You're banning the President of the United States from this many things. So, to me, that's very brazen. That's blatantly saying that, hey, we think we have more power than the government. And to be fair, in a way, they do. I think, personally, and this is an opinion of mine, mind you, do not take this as fact, but it is definitely based in reality, is that these corporations, either they're working with the government or they're working just outside of the government, because they operate in these kind of like legal gray areas where more or less they control people willingly. And you've got to ask yourself, okay, well, why would I want to be controlled? How did I get myself in this mess in the first place? And that's because when a lot of these companies started up, especially Facebook, people thought, hey, this was like the new cool hip thing to do where you could get in contact with people. And really it did. Aside from like MySpace being the other huge one, it allowed people a very simple way to get in contact with other people, share things that they liked, so on and so forth. So people saw it and they were like, well, it's kind of harmless, right? And then as time went on, they got progressively worse, where they started cracking down on things, changing their terms of service. To the point where now, if you read the Instagram terms of service, first of all, anyone that, I think it was as of December 20th last year, but anyone that's pushing a political or ideological agenda is technically a terrorist. I don't know if they've revised that. It would be awfully dumb of them to leave it that way. But hey, that's what they decided to go with. So all the more reason for us not to use it. But what happens is it's the same thing that they've been doing to gun rights for the past 70 years, where they're just taking little chunks at a time. And what they do is they present this big thing recently, right, where the bill was proposed. Now with Biden in office, the bill was proposed to create a national gun registry. Do I actually think that's going to happen? No. But I bet what's going to happen is they're going to say, hey, this is a huge thing. You can't just do that. So what's going to inevitably happen is they'll counter it with something smaller. They'll say, okay, well, what if we impose a nationwide ban on 30-round magazines? And then somebody will look at that and go, well, I guess nobody really needs a 30-round magazine. And then there you go. There's your rights. Gone. Just one little bit at a time until you don't even realize it, and they are completely and utterly gone. Right now, don't get me started on my opinion on the Second Amendment, because that is, it's kind of a long thing to talk about, and everyone has an opinion on it. They say, I'm sure you've heard the saying, but opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one. And so that's exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to the Second Amendment. It applies to other things too. You look at the Bible, people can't even agree on the Bible. They literally kill each other over it. So there is that to think about. But not to get too far off topic, my point here is that if we want some semblance of freedom, we do have to break these figurative chains that corporations are putting on us. Look at all this bullshit with the masks. The federal government, the CDC, they only gave out guidelines at the beginning as to what to follow. And now you've got companies like, Target was one of the big ones to pick it up right away, because Target has been a progressive company for quite some time now. Even if you just go in Target, they're obviously pandering to the minority. God forbid that they have one model who is white or is a healthy size. So it's plain to see. But these companies like Target, they picked up those CDC guidelines and said, nope, you're not coming in here without a mask. And I don't know if you guys remember, but at the very beginning, there were a lot of people that would actually get in fights with employees or with the security or whatnot, because they said, no, I fucking have the right not to wear a mask. And frankly, I think that you do have the right not to wear a mask. But this sort of set the precedent for local governments to go ahead and say, well, now there's a curfew. Now there's a mask law in place. And, it even expanded to things like church. They stopped people from being allowed to gather for church, and I think that that's a pretty telling and a pretty compelling piece of evidence right there, because anyone who's trying to stop you from practicing your right to religious freedom is obviously a tyrant, whether they be a government official or some fucking crony sitting behind a computer. But these things, and a lot of people think that these things they're out of our control, but they're not. They really are not. The only way that they operate is based on consent, because if we aren't allowing these companies to go ahead and run our lives for us, to control parts of our lives that we didn't even know were being controlled, they wouldn't fucking do it. But we have to stand up, and we have to wake up and say no to it. I mean, whether that means abandoning social media completely, which is not a bad thing, or just moving to alternative sources like I'm suggesting. I mean, look at how they're crucifying Parler for being proponents of free speech. I mean, the fact that they've been disqualified basically from both Apple and Google is now putting a lot of tech people and investors in the position where they don't want to support Parler anymore, because they know that they're not going to get the exposure and the user base that they could have gotten from it being qualified, basically. Which, again, I mean, that's something you have to think about, because it really is ridiculous that they're taking away this platform because it's based on free speech. I mean, that's not entirely why, but if you want the true motive behind why they're doing it, yeah, that's it. It's because it's free speech. I mean, look, whether you like it or not, right? Socialism is in America. And I don't think it's leaving anytime soon. I think that the hope that we have is in people like those who got into the Capitol building. But now, look at the way that the government is working with the social media companies to track down every single person who was there. And you think that they won't do it to you, but they will. So for you people who want to sit there and say, well, this isn't my problem, or it's not a problem until it affects me. No, that's not true. Think about gangrene, okay? How did doctors used to treat gangrene? If your toes were dead from frostbite or something, they got infected, the doctors, they'd cut off your fucking foot, because you can't let it spread. You have to act preemptively. And that's something that we lost the initiative in. See, if you were to treat this as a battle, and you were looking at this from the point of a tactician, you would say, okay, we've lost the ability to have our first strike. We've lost our main defense, right? But that does not mean that the battle is over. It just means that we have to think, and we have to be prepared to act. We cannot sit here and be complacent and continue to use things that are only contributing to the slow demise and destruction of our rights. And you might be thinking, okay, well, it's just a few tech companies. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. But in reality, it is that big of a deal. And by you giving your consent to these companies, you are perpetuating the problem. So you have to look at it as a matter of your freedoms, right? And that's why I am so heavily against anything that questions the Constitution. And I don't mean things that look at the Constitution and try and decipher it. I mean question it, question its viability, like our gun rights, right? People want to get all upset about gun rights and say, oh, well, you don't need an AR-15 with a 30-round magazine. Well, actually, I do. The reason being is because there are tons of people out there that have absolutely no brain. And they're the type of people that they'll sign up on Facebook, right? And I don't know, maybe they start out as Republican, but social media will inevitably, they'll censor them for being a Republican. But these people, they don't care. I mean, they'll sit there and think, well, I mean, it's their terms of service. I have to agree to it. No, you don't. Just leave. And they start to think that way about gun rights and things like that too. No, you know what the only thing securing your rights is right now? Guns. If millions of Americans did not have guns, you would not have rights. And I can tell you that for a fact, right? Somebody said to me one time that, and this hopefully this enrages you as much as it did me, but I was in a discussion and I said that I really don't think there should be that many restrictions on the Second Amendment. And this guy said to me, I said it's part of the Constitution. Anyway, he says, I don't give a shit about the Constitution. I just don't want people to die, right? Well, what the fuck, man? I mean, if you don't give a shit about the Constitution, what are you still doing in the country? Just like, okay, I respect if you don't want to own firearms. That's fine. Some people are afraid of them. Some people don't like how they feel. Some people just don't like the idea of them. That's fine. But don't enforce your opinion on me when it's one of our... I mean, literally, the right to self-defense is a God-given right. I'm not going to sit down and die because you think I can't defend myself. No, that's not how life works. And I am treating this social media issue exactly the same way because it's only another factor contributing to all these things that are suppressing Americans. And it's not just Americans because it's happening around the world. Thankfully, our founding fathers wrote a document that they knew would be able to help us for hundreds of years after they died. And to this day, yes, it is still helping us. It is helping us be one of the freest countries in the world. And that's something that you have to take into consideration. So, as I'm getting upset about this, I mean, it's passion. I'm not just upset. I'm upset because I don't like seeing our liberties taken away. And so, I want you guys to think about that. Think about how your actions are impacting the rights of everyone else, including yourself. Because, like I said, where there's this kind of corporatist rule, the only way that they can rule is by consent. I mean, to an extent, yes, you have to kind of play with them, but if you really, truly do not want to, then don't. I mean, strikes and boycotts, yes, they exist as tools to make these companies bend to your will. I think inherently any company will try to push its own agenda, work based on its own motives and its own interests. No company really is going to sit there and do what's best for the consumer. I mean, I'm sure that there are exceptions to this rule, but for the most part, no, they're not going to. I mean, you think, like I said, Target. You really think they give a shit about you? No, they do not. They just want to, I mean, Colgate as an example, actually, because they hopped on board the LGBT train. Do you really think Colgate gives a shit about LGBT people? No, not in the slightest. They don't care. All they want is money. They care about gay money just as much as they do straight money. So that's something that you have to take into consideration. And I thought that this was a very fitting topic for when I decide to actually go to BitChute. Hopefully you guys will listen to the whole thing because I think this is one of the better points that I've made. I had absolutely no script for this one. I just wanted to talk to you guys because this is something that I'm passionate about, and it's something that we need to act upon right now. I mean, it's something that you can start today, and it doesn't take very much thought. It takes 5 minutes to look up, I don't know, just even BitChute. Stop watching YouTube, and go to BitChute. Even fucking keep your YouTube, but go to BitChute to support the people like me who are trying to make a difference. And by supporting people like me, by supporting someone else, I mean, you are yourself making a difference. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I mean, the whole usual spiel that I give you. But yeah, like I said earlier in the video, please feel free to message me however you can find me. It's just Google antiquated ideas. Something will come up. I really do love hearing from you guys. You guys give me motivation. I mean, you guys give me hope. Hopefully, I give you guys hope. Hopefully, I give you something to look out for. So, anyway, that's it for today.